Hello, Level Cast learners, and welcome to your weekly update on global affairs. We've sifted through the headlines to bring you the most significant developments from around the world. Let's dive into the news from the week of July 13, 2026. News 1 of 26. Our first story takes us to the art world, where the alleged mastermind behind the October 2025 Louvre heist is now claiming that a damaged, gem-encrusted crown was merely the beginning of their plans. This particular crown was historically worn by Empress Eugenie in the 19th century, and its reported damage has added another layer of intrigue to an already high-profile case. This development suggests a potentially broader and more audacious criminal enterprise, raising questions about the security of other priceless artifacts. News 2 of 26. Moving to European politics, a Swedish member of European Parliament, Abir Al-Salani, has filed a police complaint. She is accusing a Danish colleague of racist hate speech. Ms. Al-Salani faced a barrage of social media abuse after she publicly condemned anti-immigration chants that had been heard in the European Parliament. This incident highlights ongoing tensions and concerns about discrimination within political discourse across Europe, and the importance of addressing such issues through legal channels. News 3 of 26. In a significant escalation of tensions, the conflict between the U.S. and Iran has intensified this week with a series of retaliatory strikes and attempts to blockade ports. Following fresh U.S. strikes, Iran launched its own attacks, targeting airports and bridges. Simultaneously, U.S. forces reportedly boarded a ship amidst attempts to block maritime access. Tragically, 2 U.S. troops were killed and 1 is missing in Jordan after these Iranian attacks, with Tehran also claiming to have destroyed U.S. fighter jets. This situation represents a dangerous escalation in the region. News 4 of 26. Closer to home for many, the Refugee Council in the UK has reported that over 16,000 refugees are currently unable to reunite with their families. This deeply concerning situation is a direct consequence of the suspension of the family reunion route, which has left many individuals stranded in conflict zones or compelled to rely on dangerous methods, such as using people smugglers, to reach safety. The report underscores the human cost of these policy changes and the urgent need for viable pathways for family reunification. News 5 of 26. Our attention now turns to Jakarta, Indonesia, which is grappling with an immense environmental challenge. The city, one of the largest in the world, is struggling to manage the vast quantities of waste accumulating at Bantar Gebang, its largest landfill. This site has become known as one of the garbage mountains, and, despite the environmental concerns, it supports the livelihoods of thousands of waste pickers. This situation highlights the complex intersection of environmental management, urban development, and poverty in rapidly growing megacities. News 6 of 26. In a move aimed at safeguarding younger generations, the EU chief, Ursula von der Leyen, has pledged to implement a social media ban for children. This commitment follows strong recommendations from a panel of experts who called for restrictions for those under 13, primarily to protect them from what they term predatory algorithms. This initiative reflects a growing global concern about the impact of social media on child development and mental well-being, and the urgent need for regulatory action. News 7 of 26. Tragically, a British couple, Pete and Fran Gillam, have been identified among the 13 people killed in the devastating Spanish wildfires. Authorities have been using DNA samples to identify the victims of the blaze, which occurred in Almeria. This heartbreaking news serves as a stark reminder of the increasing frequency and intensity of wildfires globally, and the profound human toll they take on communities. News 8 of 26. In a significant development for European defense, a coalition of the willing has been formed to build a shared European anti-ballistic program. Ukraine and 9 other countries, including the UK, issued a joint statement outlining their commitment to this initiative. This announcement came as leaders met with Volodymyr Zelensky in Paris, underscoring a collective effort to enhance regional security and defense capabilities in response to current geopolitical challenges. News 9 of 26. Meanwhile, Israel has announced that its first elections since the Hamas attacks in 2023 will take place in October. This vote will provide an opportunity for Israelis to express their judgment on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his government's handling of the conflicts in Gaza and Iran. The elections are expected to be a pivotal moment, shaping the future political landscape and direction of the country. News 10 of 26. France is taking extensive security measures for a busy weekend, deploying 70,000 security personnel for both Bastille Day celebrations and the World Cup semifinal. The Interior Minister has issued a firm warning that no unruly behavior will be tolerated after the match. This significant deployment highlights the authorities' commitment to maintaining public order and safety during major national events, especially in the context of recent social unrest. News 11 of 26. The European Union has firmly rejected claims from the Trump administration that the International Criminal Court, or ICC, threatens U.S. sovereignty. The U.S. government had previously stated its intention to systematically disable the Hague-based court. The EU's stance reiterates its strong support for international legal institutions and multilateralism, emphasizing the importance of accountability for war crimes and crimes against humanity, regardless of national interests. News 12 of 26. A letter signed by peers, former ambassadors, and senior lawyers has been published, arguing that Palestine is the test for the UK and international law. The letter asserts that Israel must be held accountable for its actions in Gaza and the West Bank. This collective statement underscores the ongoing debate and concern among legal and political figures regarding adherence to international law and human rights in the region. News 13 of 26. In Germany, a growing number of young people are opting out of military service, even as Berlin strives to boost its army. Nearly 6,000 young men have applied to be excluded from service on moral or religious grounds, despite the implementation of a conscription-light policy. This trend raises questions about the effectiveness of current recruitment strategies and the changing attitudes towards military service among younger generations in Germany. News 14 of 26. Today's Friday briefing focuses on whether violence against politicians is reshaping democracy in the UK. The newsletter highlights that years of increasing hostility have transformed political work from a public service into a personal risk. This alarming development is pushing members of parliament further away from their constituents, potentially eroding the foundational principles of representative democracy and public engagement. News 15 of 26. A disturbing report reveals that killings are continuing on a Del Monte farm in Kenya, even after G4S was hired for security. Families of the victims claim that 3 men have been killed in incidents over the past year, allegedly involving G4S guards. These new security personnel replaced an in-house team after previous deaths. This exclusive report raises serious concerns about corporate responsibility and the protection of human rights in private security operations. News 16 of 26. In local news, the Melbourne Council has voted to scrap Lime e-bikes, citing their failure to meet bare minimum standards. City of Yarra councillors ended the trial, claiming that the company had not done enough to prevent the dumping and misuse of the shared bikes. This decision reflects growing frustration among urban authorities regarding the management and impact of shared mobility services on public spaces. News 17 of 26. Concerns about growing repression from Trump have been sparked by the arrest of an American who has donated $1 million in aid to Palestine. An extradition request for James Fergie Chambers has prompted fears that the U.S. government is conflating humanitarian aid with terrorism. This case highlights anxieties within the humanitarian community about potential political targeting and the impact on charitable efforts in conflict zones. News 18 of 26. The Ukraine war continues to be a focal point, with protests ongoing over the dismissal of Defense Minister Fedorov. Outrage at his sacking overshadowed Starmer's final visit as Prime Minister, with demonstrations taking place in Lviv and Kyiv. Meanwhile, Zelensky is working to repair a rift with Poland, and Moscow has issued a stern warning that any foreign troops in Ukraine would be considered legitimate targets. This complex situation underscores the persistent internal and external challenges facing Ukraine. News 19 of 26. Across North America, wildfire smoke continues to spread, leading to widespread air quality warnings. Smoke from northern Ontario, Canada, is still blanketing much of the U.S., resulting in Toronto having some of the worst air quality in the world. While rain might offer some relief to the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, the World Cup final is still expected to proceed on Sunday. This ongoing environmental crisis highlights the severe and far-reaching impacts of climate change. News 20 of 26. In a surprising turn, Trump's Board of Peace has dropped its full Gaza recovery plan in favor of a tiny pilot scheme. This revised plan aims to keep something going, amid fears that Netanyahu might gamble on a new all-out offensive before the upcoming Israeli elections. This shift suggests a significant scaling back of ambitions and reflects the volatile political landscape surrounding the conflict. News 21 of 26. Further complicating the situation, Israeli ministers have announced plans for new illegal settlements in Gaza and the West Bank. The defense minister is reportedly seeking 3 Nahal outposts in Gaza, while a top commander claims Israel now controls 65% of the Strip, a development that violates the Trump ceasefire deal. These actions are likely to exacerbate tensions and draw international condemnation. News 22 of 26. In the ongoing Ukraine war, Ukrainian strikes have reportedly devastated Russian warehouses that were allegedly used for drones. Ukraine hit Wildberries logistics centers in both the Moscow and Tambov regions. Additionally, video footage has emerged showing the moment of a contract-killing attempt in Monaco. These events, occurring on day 1607 of the conflict, indicate the continued intensity and varied nature of the fighting. News 23 of 26. In a cultural and diplomatic gesture, the Bayeux Tapestry's arrival in the UK is being hailed as closing the loop on Brexit tensions, suggesting a new entente between Britain and France. Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy was among the first viewers as the epic embroidery was unpacked at the British Museum. This landmark event is seen as a positive step in Anglo-French relations, using cultural exchange to foster goodwill. News 24 of 26. A series of letters has been published debating the terminology surrounding disability benefits. Susan Randall argues against calling it welfare in the context of Stephen Tim's PIP review and those with long-standing mental illness. Ruth Lister further emphasizes why Social Security spending should not be referred to as welfare. Contributions from Luke Howard and Katie Mead also feature, highlighting a broader discussion on appropriate language and public perception of social support systems. News 25 of 26. Top House Democrats have vowed to oppose a bid to cut U.S. military aid to Israel. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries described the proposed amendment as overly broad, as his party grapples with the backlash surrounding aid to Israel. This stance indicates internal divisions and ongoing debate within the Democratic Party regarding foreign policy and military assistance. News 26 of 26. Finally, Germany has issued a warning to the U.S. against election interference, specifically regarding a MAGA-aligned grants scheme. Friedrich Merz responded to a U.S. project offering grants of up to $3 million in Europe to address issues such as sovereignty, migration, and censorship. This intervention highlights concerns among European nations about external influence in their domestic political processes and electoral integrity. That concludes our Level Cast news briefing for this week. We hope this update has been informative and helpful for your English learning journey. Until next time, keep exploring the world and expanding your vocabulary.